Let's talk about the microbiome. That is buzzing a lot in MS circles. My neurologist even told me that she thinks that in the future the microbiome will be considered like another organ of the body.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
The microbiome consists of the bacterial colonies that reside in our intestinal tract. And up to 90% of our immune system actually resides in our gut. Some of the functions of the microbiome include detoxification, inflammation regulation, neurotransmitter and vitamin production, essential for healthy brain function, signaling whether we're full or hungry, and carbohydrate and fat utilization. So it has several functions.
So what can we do to boost that function of the microbiome?
Well, actually, it's the food that you eat. The food that you eat can actually modulate the microbiome to either exacerbate or ameliorate symptoms.
Like what?
A diet high in carbohydrate and sugar creates an inflammatory microbiome. It's that important.
But I know a lot of people with MS, they get carb cravey because they have so much fatigue. So they're looking for instant energy. So how do you work around that?
They need to eat more protein. If they eat more protein, that will turn itself around. The more carbohydrates you eat, the more you'll crave. And that sometimes can mean that you're a little deficient in protein. And if they eat more protein and vegetables and fruits, they'll have more energy. Sometimes the carbohydrates can kind of pull you down and even make you even more tired.
What about supplements for your microbiome?
Probiotics. That's the supplement for the microbiome. Also cocoa, coffee, and curcumin.
Now, when you say probiotics, do you mean the kind of probiotics that you would find in yogurt? A lot of us don't eat dairy, so how do we get more probiotics?
An oral probiotic supplement that is typically found in the refrigerator case of your local health food store. Just make sure that it has a high CFU number. I take 100 billion, and a diversity.
100 billion.
Yes, I take 100 billion.
100 billion a day.
34 strains.
Wow.
You want a diversity in the strains.
And so would that be like the liquid acidophilus that you see in a health food store?
Acidophilus is acidophilus. A good, diverse probiotic has several strains and a high CFU.
Okay, and how will that help someone with MS?
Well, it will modulate your intestinal flora to give you more diversity. You want a diversity in the bacterial strains.
And fermented foods?
Fermented foods are very good.
So that would be like kimchi, sauerkraut.
That's right. That's
pickles.
what I eat. Pickles in brine, not vinegar. Also, high fiber foods feed the good bacteria, whereas sugar and refined carbohydrates feed the bad bacteria. We don't want to feed the bad bacteria. We want to starve it. We want to feed the good bacteria. So, like you said, the fermented foods, pickles in brine, not vinegar. Kimchi, sauerkraut. I have that at home too. A probiotic yogurt. Ideally, pasteurization can kill a lot of the bacteria, so that's where that becomes a slippery slope. I don't really say to people, oh, if you eat yogurt like what you see in some of the TV commercials, they're a little bit misleading. A lot of commercial yogurts contain a lot of sugar, thickeners, additives. You don't want that. A lot of those probiotics are killed in the pasteurization. So I don't normally tell people, oh, you can get your probiotics from yogurt. It's not really true.
One of the things that my neurologist said to me is that the research regarding diet and MS is very problematic because it's really hard to do random controlled studies on diet for a whole bunch of reasons. Are people sticking to it, and what are the other situations that come up with trying to stick to that? But she said anecdotally, she can say that it appears to her that about half of her patients have some kind of food trigger, and whether that's dairy or gluten, they all report that. So if you're an MS patient, how can you work with your physician to determine what sensitivities might trigger problems for you?
There are certain tests that your doctor will order, but I can tell you that the evidence suggests dairy and gluten are inflammatory for anybody. You don't have to have a milk allergy or celiac disease to have gluten and dairy be problematic for you. Most of us will be problematic. In fact, if you just take anybody and I put them on an elimination diet and I say, I want you to eliminate dairy for 3 weeks, tell me how you feel. They will come back to me and say that their sniffles went away, that their bloating, their constipation, their gastrointestinal distress disappeared.
I'm smiling at sniffles and bloating and
Yeah.
all that, but I think that's what I hear from other people too, is that do an elimination diet. Just, you don't have to commit to this forever.
Right.
What you're doing is you're going on an exploratory mission to find out
What your triggers are.
What your triggers are.
And you don't have to have MS to have those triggers.
Right.
They can be triggers for anybody. And I think that doctors don't like the word diet. I don't either, because when people hear diet, they're like, oh God, what can't I eat? You know, they feel like you're coming at them telling them, you can't eat this and you can't eat that.
Right.
It's more of foods to eliminate. You know, we want to stay away from that 4-letter word. Foods to include, foods to reduce,
Right.
and, you know, foods to incorporate, a lifestyle, a healthy eating regimen. See, we're not using diet.